So this video is all about learning the Lambda School Git Flow between students and PMs. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to demonstrate your ability to use the Lambda School Git workflow to submit up an assignment to your project manager. So why are we choosing this particular workflow? I'm going to tell you that before we actually introduce it to you. So in the real world, you're going to work in a specific environment that depends solely on your own team. Every team has a specific way of doing things. There are a variety of strategies in terms of Git flows and getting things done and collaborating on projects. Here at Lambda School, we do a lot of forking. That's written all over all of our assignments. What we're going to be teaching now is another flow called branching. Something that a lot of lab students have learned kind of by themselves is this idea that they can create branches instead of forks to commit their changes to. So here at Lambda School, when you're working on your assignments, we are going to be using both forking and branching to leverage the power of both so that you can keep things organized and submit things in a tidy fashion. Learning this flow will help you learn both of those strategies. That's one of the key principles of this, is that we're going to expose you to, and by the end of the program, you will have mastered both forking and branching. This is going to help students and PMs at Lambda School keep things organized and clean as well. So there's two major objectives here: teach you what the real world is like and help everyone stay organized one with another. So the first step that we're going to look at, and we're just going to bust through this slide deck before we actually do it together, is forking. So first thing that you're going to do every time you get an assignment that's assigned to you on GitHub is create your own version of the repository by forking it. And the way to do that, of course, is to head over to, let's say, this repository here and click that fork button. Okay? At which point you will be given an opportunity to choose, if you are a part of multiple accounts and organizations, a place to which you want to fork the project. So in your case, you're going to want to choose your username. If you don't have this screen pop up, it's probably because you don't have this multiple project association with your GitHub account. Okay, the next thing that you'll do when you fork it is ensure that the forked version is your GitHub username / project name. And you'll know that it is a forked copy if you have that little fork icon, and if it says forked from Lambda School, GitHub, or Git Flow practice, or whatever the repository name is. So always double check that the repository that you clone is the one that you forked. Okay? So the next thing that you're going to do, which changes things up from the current flow, is to add your PM as a collaborator to your project. Okay? Now, the place that you're going to go and do this is inside of Settings, inside of Collaborators, and then type your project manager's name or GitHub handle in the search bar. And as soon as you select your project manager, you can add them as a collaborator. This is going to be really important for when you submit your assignment, so we ask that you do this right after you fork. Okay? After you've done that, we're going to go ahead and clone the repository. So to clone the repository, you click the little green button. It's going to drop down the URL, and you can just simply copy it to your clipboard and then do the things that you know already or that you have learned from Training Kit already, which is add the GitHub .git URI into your terminal in the place to which you want to clone, and make sure that you run git clone and copy and paste that URL. As soon as you run that command, you should see something like this, that it says cloning into a project that they're going to create, enumerating objects, counting objects, blah, blah, blah. This is essentially going and downloading all of that information to a local repository. You know you've done it right if you've gotten this far. The next thing you want to do is make a branch on your fork. So instead of committing everything to your master branch on your fork, you're going to create your own branch that's labeled after your first name and your last name. So every single branch that you create for turning in homework at Lambda School will be your first name hyphen last name. So how you do this is cd into your project. Notice that my project is pointed at Git Flow practice, and I ran a git checkout -b, and I submitted it as Ryan-Hamblin. The next thing that you'll do is run git branch in your terminal, just to make sure that you created the branch properly, okay? And then you're going to run all the rest of your commands like you normally would. You're going to git push to your origin branch name. So first name hyphen last name. So you run your git add, git commit like normal. Those don't change. The only thing that changes here is instead of pushing to master, make sure you push to origin instead. The next thing that we'll have you do is submit a pull request. But for this, it's kind of a two-step portion of this pull request submission. The first thing you want to do is use your fork as a base, and you're going to compare across forks, okay? So if you don't see this ability to compare across forks, notice how I dropped this I clicked on the base fork, and I clicked on Ryan-Hamblin /Git Flow practice, okay? And that's going to change things. That's going to make it so that you can compare your branch, which is your name, versus the master branch, but only on your forks. We don't want any more PRs submitted to the master branch on the original repo, okay? So make sure you submit this to your fork. Your fork is the base fork for this project submission, okay? And then you'll go ahead and just open that in GitHub. You'll be able to see that you can open that pull request across the branches. So you can go and do a compare and pull at this point, and it'll be on the branch only and not on the master repo. So as soon as you have opened that pull request and you're ready to go, you're going to add your PM who is a collaborator as a reviewer on the project. So the way that you do that is you open up your little pull request and you notice that there's that reviewer section on the right sidebar. You can go ahead and find somebody who's collaborating on your project there. At this point, it should only just be your project manager. Okay? And then what's going to happen is you'll see something like this, where on the right-hand panel, the reviewers on this project with a little yellow dot are your project manager. And then what can happen is there is a review requested, and the project manager will be able to see this and go in and start reviewing your code. So they'll get a notification in GitHub and they're like, boom, my student's ready to rock and roll. At this point, as a student, you are completely done doing everything that you need to do. You are ready to turn in your work, okay? As a project manager, to mark the work as complete, you will now need to accept the merge request after conducting a review of the code. So you're going to go in and do your review, and then once you accept the changes, the student's project is deemed ready for submission. Okay? So at that point, the student has completely completed everything, and you have had a chance as a PM to go in and review things and merge it back into the master branch. Okay? So we actually have an assignment that's associated with this video that will allow you to practice these steps, and then we're going to have some training kit material that will break down these steps in a bullet point fashion so that you can remember to do them in the order that you need to do them to get things rocking and rolling here at Lambda School. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope this information was super useful, and we hope this GitHub workflow really helps you understand what it's like to work in a true professional development team environment. Okay, now what we want to do is we actually want to practice this new Git flow by following along with this exercise. So go ahead and head over to Lambda School's GitHub, and so github.com/Lambda School, and find the Git flow practice repo. So we're going to follow the instructions here. You can read this paragraph on your own, but first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our own version of this repo by forking it. So I'm going to fork it under my name, and you're going to follow along with me here. So if you need time, make sure you pause the video and keep up as things need to come about. So now that I have forked it, we're going to add our PM as a collaborator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to settings to do that, head over to collaborators, and I'm going to look for my PM, whose name is John. I'm going to add John as a collaborator here. Then to throw John a bone, I'm going to copy an invite link, and I'm going to send it over to him in Slack. So John is ready. He's now a collaborator on my project. He's excited to see what I'm able to put together as I complete my homework. Notice that I know this is my forked version once again because it says Ryan Hamblin. It's forked from Lambda School. It's not Lambda School's master version. Okay, so let's head back over to the main repo. And now that we have added our PM as a collaborator, let's go ahead and clone it. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to I'm going to pull up a new terminal. Go ahead and clear that. And I will go back to my root. I'm just going to clone it there. I'm going to do a git clone. Okay, now that it's cloned, I'm going to cd into it. And the first thing that I want to do, as soon as I've done that, is create a branch with my first and last name hyphenated. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say git checkout-b, do this with me, Ryan-Hamblin. And notice that what that did for me, it actually switched to a new branch. I am no longer a part of master. So if I do a git branch at this point, you'll see that I have a master branch and a Ryan-Hamblin branch. Okay. So now that we've done that, we're going to go into the project and we're going to just pull it up in Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to add my name to the list of people. Save that. And I'm going to continue with my normal Git flow. Get rid of that screen. I'm going to do a git status. Notice that we have modified a file. Git add. Stages that. Do a git status and you'll see that it's staged. Ready to be submitted for commit. So we'll go ahead and git commit-m with a message added name as per instructions. And I'm going to push to origin Ryan-Hamblin. And this is where things are different. We're not pushing to master anymore. We're going to push to our own branches. That's 90% of the time. That's what you're going to do in the real world anyway, is push to branches, not to a master branch. Notice that we pushed and we got these responses back. It wrote 100% of my changes over to a branch. And what's really cool is it actually published this branch in GitHub already. So it not only staged it and pushed the changes to the branch, it published that so that it's available in GitHub. So now the coup de grace of everything is we're going to create a pull request and submit our work. So we're going to use our own student fork as the base. Notice that I'm here. I have my base, and I'm able to merge. But first, I'm going to add my trusty PM as a collaborator to the project. So he's a collaborator and a reviewer now. So I can go and I can submit my pull request to him, my project manager, and I'll send him a message in Slack saying submitted, but he'll also get a really cool notification in his GitHub that shows him that I submitted a pull request and added him as a reviewer. So now we're going to wait for John to do his thing. As a student, I have done everything I need to do. And we're just going to wait for the PM to do their thing at this point. And if you don't have your PM as a reviewer, it's because they haven't been added as a collaborator yet. Either they haven't accepted it or you haven't sent them the collaborator rights. And it looks like this is probably the best submission I've ever seen for this assignment yet. Don't tell the other guy this is public. Okay, and he merged it successfully and closed the pull request. So that's how I know that my homework was turned in and completed, is once I get this message back from my PM saying that everything worked out. So thank you, John. I am now excited to move on to my next project as a student. And students, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you get a lot of practice with this workflow. It's something that we've thought a lot about and we've gone through multiple iterations over. So we're excited to have you work in this fashion to prepare you for the real world and also keep things organized with your project managers. Let me know if you have any questions.